Stop, you fool!
There are many dangerous people recorded in history, but very few women have ever been accused of causing the deaths of hundreds of people. But what if I told you there was a woman who allegedly predicted people's deaths, and then those predictions actually happened? Guys, a lot of things are happening in this world. Stay with me, this is going to be interesting. Because the story you're about to hear is about a mysterious fortune teller who terrified an entire town in the early 1900s. And according to the rumors at the time, more than 270 people died after visiting her. This is serious. Let's go back to Pennsylvania in the early 20th century. In a busy marketplace, there was a small shop owned by a woman people called Madame Crist. From the outside, it looked ordinary, but inside that shop, she claimed she could see the future. You know the kind of fortune tellers people visit when they want to know if they will become rich, famous, or lucky in love. People would walk into her shop, sit across from her table, and place their palm in her hands. She would slowly study the lines on their hands. Then she would begin speaking about their future. Now here is where things started becoming strange. Most fortune tellers tell people good things. They talk about success, money, happiness. But Madame Crist was different, very different. Instead of talking about wealth or success, she would quietly tell her visitors how they were going to die. Imagine going to a fortune teller hoping to hear about your future, and the only thing you hear is a prediction about your death. At first, people thought it was just a trick to scare customers, but something disturbing started happening. The people she predicted would die actually started dying, one by one. Different causes, different circumstances, but the one thing they all had in common was that they had visited Madame Crist. Word began spreading around the town. Some people became terrified of her. Others believed she had supernatural powers. But one man wasn't convinced. A local police officer had been watching these rumors for a long time. He didn't believe in fortune-telling. To him, this woman was either a fraud or something even worse. So one day, he decided to test her himself. On a quiet afternoon, when he wasn't on duty, he walked into her shop like any other customer. He sat down across from her table. Then he stretched out his hand and said, "Tell me my future." Madame Crist took his palm and began examining the lines carefully. The room became quiet. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she looked up at him and calmly said something she had never said to anyone before. She told him, "You will die tonight." Just like that. The officer stared at her. Then he laughed. To him, it sounded ridiculous. He paid her money, stood up, and walked out of the shop. But as confident as he looked, the words stayed in his mind. Think about it. If someone told you that you were going to die that same night, wouldn't that thought follow you around? When the officer returned home later that evening, he tried to ignore it, but he couldn't. Part of him believed it was nonsense, but another part of him couldn't stop thinking about it. So he decided to stay alert. He checked the doors, he checked the windows, he made sure everything in the house was secure. He told himself, if morning comes and nothing happens, then I'll know that woman is lying. Night came. The house became quiet. Eventually, he went to bed, but he didn't sleep deeply. He kept waking up, listening for any strange sound. Hours passed. Everything seemed normal. Then suddenly, he felt something, like someone else was in the room. Slowly, he opened his eyes, and what he saw next shocked him. Standing inside his bedroom was Madame Crist. She was holding a knife. Stay with me, because this is where the story becomes unbelievable. The officer jumped up immediately. A struggle began inside the room. Remember, this man was a trained police officer. He fought back. The two of them struggled, crashing into furniture as they tried to overpower each other. At one point, they lost balance and both fell down the staircase. The fall was violent. The officer hit his head and lost consciousness. Sometime later, when he woke up, things looked different. Other police officers were inside the house. Apparently, they had heard the noise and rushed in. Madame Crist had been captured. She was handcuffed. The officer felt relieved. Finally, the mysterious fortune teller had been caught. But something strange happened again.
While the officers were talking and trying to understand what happened, someone suddenly noticed something. The chair where Madame Crist had been sitting was empty. The handcuffs were still there, but she was gone. No one could explain how she escaped. It didn't make sense. The officers decided that the next morning they would go straight to her shop and arrest her properly. But the officer who had fought her was exhausted. He decided to rest and deal with everything the next day. That night, he went back to sleep, but unfortunately, morning never came for him, because sometime during the night, Madame Crist returned, and this time, the officer didn't survive. After that incident, police launched a full search for her. They checked her shop, they searched nearby towns, they followed every possible lead, but Madame Crist had disappeared completely. And to this day, the mystery still raises questions. Was she just a criminal who used fear to manipulate people? Or did she somehow make her own predictions come true? No one knows, but one thing is certain. Her story became one of the most disturbing legends from that time. Guys, a lot of things are happening in this world. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the line between truth and mystery can be very thin. If you found this story interesting, drop a like and share it with someone who loves mysterious stories. And let me ask you something before you go. Do you think Madame Crist really had supernatural abilities, or was she simply creating the events she predicted? Let me know in the comments, because honestly, this story is still very, very strange.